Peyton here with Roleplaying Public Radio. This is episode 19, the Gencon 2008 Wrap-Up. And of course, here with me is Tom.
All right, waiting. Now the announcer voice is gone. We can continue.
Oh, okay, I see. You're.
I just waiting. I can tell. I can tell when it's going to come and go.
Does my announcer voice creep you out,
You have
Tom?
an announcer face that goes along with your announcer voice.
And does that creep you out, Tom?
No, I've gotten used to it.
Okay. Anyways, so here we are, back from Gen Con 2008, the best 4 days of gaming, and I would have to agree with that slogan.
I concur with that decision.
Yeah. So, we'll start with the good, the bad. Well, there wasn't really bad, but there are a few bad.
The good, the bad, and the ugly?
Yeah.
It's a good movie.
Of course, we live here in Missouri, southwest Missouri, so to get to Indianapolis was a 7.5-hour road trip through St. Louis, through Illinois, on into Indiana.
And you know what I realize?
What?
Missouri and Illinois are really boring states to drive through.
I would say
Maybe besides Kansas.
Missouri at least has hills that make it a little more varied.
But Illinois is like a small version of Kansas.
Yeah.
Farmland over here, road.
Yeah. True.
Broken up by an occasional tiny town.
So we did a little recording on the trip up there. We'll post that sooner or later. And, of course, we bitched at Aaron. We played music that none of us, you guys don't like.
We did some stuff from the mini bosses and then had a contest like, all right, who's the first one that can tell which game this came from?
Yeah, and I can't believe neither of you got Metroid.
I never played Metroid. I played it once.
You see, Tom, you lie. You say, I've never played it. I've played it once. Which is it, Tom?
I was starting to say I never played it. Then I realized, no, wait, I played it one time.
Well, then you should recognize...
That's a self-contradiction.
Didn't you ever play Smash Brothers, Tom?
No.
It was on there. Well, anyways, we're diverting. So, of course, Gen Con, 30,000 people showing up, something like that, 26, 37,000. Lots and lots of gamers. So why don't we talk a little bit about the con itself. The first thing, every time you go to a con, you learn something new about how to have fun, more fun next time. The one thing we've learned a few things. The key, though, is to leave before the con starts.
Yeah, get there a day early.
A day early, so you're there right on the hour, the minute that it starts.
We left at pretty much 6:30 on the nose from Springfield, and we didn't get to the convention center until 4.
Yeah.
There was a whole...
No, it was like 4:30.
Yeah, 4:30. So, and I believe that was mainly the fault of us trying to find the hotel.
Yeah.
Then checking in, then getting from the hotel to the con, and parking, as I understand, was a motherfucker.
Yeah.
Because the brand new stadium was opening.
Yeah. So, get your hotel booked as soon as possible, because at first we had a hotel from 5 miles away for the first night, then we had to switch to a hotel 4 blocks away, but still 4 blocks could be better. We could have, booked at a hotel right at the con, one of the ones connecting to the convention center. So, but that's something for next year. But a lesson
learned.
Yes. So anyways, of course, the biggest draw of Gen Con is the exhibit hall. And that's where I spent most of my time. Well, a lot of my time
I spent 80% of the con there.
Yeah. And, this is where all the companies come out to show their goodies, their products for the next year. Video game companies, card games, board games, miniature games, role-playing games. Yeah. The whole 9 yards.
And you know what I learned upon going in there?
Yeah.
I really need to be wealthier than I am. Because you're just walking around like, that's awesome. Fuck, it's expensive. That's awesome. Fuck, it's expensive.
No joke. You know what I learned, Tom?
What'd you learn, Ross?
If you have a press pass, like we do, like we did, because we're a podcast, new media.
Role-playing public radio.
Yes. You can actually ask for free review copies of things, as long as you promise to review them. And boy, did we get some neat stuff for this.
Yes, we did. Well, the first thing we did on Thursday when getting there is you got some Monsters and other childish thing stuff.
Well, that's that. I didn't get review copies. I got copies of them because I wrote for them.
Ross is the man.
Comp
right there.
Copies. My first book, Curriculum of Conspiracy, is now officially out in print, not just in PDF, and it's only $9.99 from Arc Dream Publishing. Even though I don't get royalties,
it's an investment.
Yeah. So yeah, that was actually selling very well. Monsters was doing very well at Gen Con. A lot of people had a lot of buzz. A lot of people really interested in it. So check it out. And I was really pleased to get the copies, see my work in print.
I got a free one too.
I also ran 2 games of Monsters for Gen Con official events, and I had a blast
Oh, the
running
shit
them.
you got to pay to get into.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll get more into that later, but yeah, it was very fun. So let's see what else. Of course,
A game I was definitely looking forward to, finally got to check out, which is Monster Apocalypse.
yes. So tell us about Monster Apocalypse.
Well, I think I've mentioned before what it's all about, so I will simply go to my experience with it.
Well, no, give us a brief recap of what it is.
You sure I should do that?
Just a sentence or two. Come on.
Okay. It's essentially a miniatures game in which you are controlling monsters who are attacking a city and trying to be the top monster.
Okay. So you get. Do you just get the one giant monster, or how does it work?
You have your primary monster, the alpha.
Yeah.
And each one has a hyper form, which is like your power up form. And then each faction kind of has smaller units they can do, like the giant lizards have hatchlings, slightly larger, and then juvenile lizards.
Right.
And of course the Cthulhu ones have little spitter worms, and of course my favorite, the meat slave, which are like humans that are bloated into sacks of poisonous pus.
Nice.
Yeah,
Really
very
classy.
nice. And of course you go around fighting in a city, destroying buildings, and blast. Good times.
Okay.
And they were selling preview copies of it there,
Yeah.
and different versions. I got the mega version, the $129 one, which is the starter kit and like 8 or 9 expansion packs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the most expensive thing I bought, but I'm gonna say it was definitely worth it. And I got to do one of the play tests.
Okay. Well, tell us about that.
I got my ass kicked because, of course, I think the other guy knew what he was doing.
Well, he was the one of their employees doing the demo, right? Or was it another player?
I think so. I didn't ask.
Okay. Did he have one of the Privateer Press shirts?
Honestly, I was more focused on the board than who he was.
Okay.
I guess that was my first. My first mistake is not know my enemy.
Ah, yes.
But yeah, I was doing the giant lizards. He was doing the insect world devourers.
Okay.
I got a few licks in, but he pretty much thoroughly kicked my ass.
Well, tell us about the rules. I mean, how hard are they to pick up? What do you think of them?
I was glad he was there. I'm still learning them.
Right, obviously.
It's there's a lot of stats to contend with. The board has different hexes have different movement speeds you have to contend with. I'm still figuring out half of it.
Okay.
I mean, I hope to be, by the time it fully comes out in spring of 2009, I hope to be up in all the rules.
Of course, this is the first Gen Con post 4th Ed, so of course Wizards was there. But the big news, obviously, is that third-party publishers are not signing up for the GSL. So Goodman Games had some 4th Ed material ready to go, and I picked up one of the modules. They were selling very briskly, and some of the stuff won't hit stores for a while. So, of course, what was unfortunate is all the scenarios were level 1,
Right.
introductory scenarios, and by now, most people who are into 4th Ed probably have at least done the intro scenarios, have done level 1 things. So I was
Right.
hoping to see something a little higher level, but whatever. It's interesting to see this break from Wizards and all this other stuff. So
It's a rebellion.
yeah, of course, Wizards' booth was actually pretty small compared. Last year they had a massive section.
Well, of course, 4th Ed was just announced.
Yeah, so they had all this stuff about Gleemax. Gleemax, by the way, which is some web thing they had planned, web community for gamers, was shut down. They're shutting it down because they realized it was a total failure. But this year they had a relatively small booth. With a couple of ways to sign up for Dungeons and Dragons Insider, and a big game that you can play. But that was about it. I mean, it was. Privateer Press had a much larger section than they did. Of course, they're doing it with Iron Kingdoms or whatever it is they do. All their different games. So, and Monster Apocalypse, obviously. So.
Right.
Anyways, so that was cool to see. I also got to go to the Goodman Games, since I've written for them a little. My fourth edition module will be released this September or October. It's part of an anthology thing, and my section is called Tides of Doom. It's a Lovecraftian level 1 adventure, low-level adventure.
Wow, Ross with Lovecraftian stuff. Huh? Shocking.
I know, right? So keep an eye out for that. Anyways, I got to go to the Beer Con, which is some Goodman Games industry party,
Right.
where a bunch of the D&D type people show up and hang out and talk. And I'll get more into that later, but there were some good stories to be had from that. Let's see here, what else? Of course, Pelgrim Press, which does the Gumshoe system, which is the new investigation system for mystery games. They had a bunch of new product. This is very interesting. We got some review copies of it, and we'll be going over it later in the podcast. Well, not in this particular podcast, but in future episodes, we'll be addressing a lot of the Gumshoe products. They had one game I noticed you're also looking at, Mutant City Blues,
Which is kind of like metahuman investigation.
And I actually interviewed the writer Robin Laws over it, and it's a very interesting game. The basic idea is CSI meets Powers, the comics, top
Like Heroes.
10. Yeah, Heroes. Basically, 10 years ago, 1% of the world's population became mutants. Now, it's 10 years later, they figured out ways to investigate crimes committed by them. And so you're like a super cop, a mutant cop, with superpowers, and you're investigating these criminals. Now, the thing is, there are forensic and techniques to detect powers and to figure out what kind of... The way it works is there's like a diagram, the Quaid diagram, and each type of power is based on a certain part of the body or part of the brain. And you can only connect powers that are related to it. So if you have fire control, fire blasting, flame control is probably something you would also have, but you wouldn't be invulnerable or super strong because that's a different part of the body. So you can then, if you figure out, if there's one guy with wall crawling and one guy with flying, or you use these two different powers, they have to be two criminals involved because it can't just be one guy who has both powers.
Right.
So it sounds a very interesting premise. We got the Gencon preview of it. It won't be officially out for a little while, I think, because they're going to do a fancy full color thing. But it looks very cool, and we'll have more about that. Of course, they also have horror games. Trail of Cthulhu, which won a few Silver Emmy Awards. Congratulations to them. And Fear Itself, which is sort of a standalone, more normal people surviving horror type things. Kind of like a Twilight Zone sort of thing. So, and the Esoterists have, which is their standard Gumshoe game. So, very interesting horror stuff. We'll be getting, so I'm looking forward to going through those, because I am, as you might know, I'm somewhat of a horror fan.
I would, we've known that.
Yeah, anyway, so, anything else you'd like to mention, Tom?
Of course, Mutants and Masterminds had a big booth out.
Yeah, Green Ronin Publishing.
Yeah, and I realized everything they had on their table I already owned but one.
So that was a pretty obvious purchase, Tom. So tell us about that a little.
It was it's the Mutants and Masterminds book for Wild Cards, which is a comic series of the 80s, I believe.
Okay.
I wasn't familiar with it, but it's a Mutants and Masterminds book I didn't have.
Okay, so you're just...
So I must have
got a little OCD over it, so...
And yeah, this is actually kind of like the one you were describing, where a alien virus mutates thousands of people in New York City in 1946.
Nice. So have you had a chance to look it over yet? Any first thoughts of it?
And I really like the scenario. I'm actually gonna run a game of it to see what my players think of it.
Cool. And since we have that new recorder, you'll be able to record it.
I will. I will be recording some of our games there.
Nice.
So you can all hear the antagonism between David and Aaron.
Very good. Let's see here. What else? We also have, of course, speaking of superheroes, we also have Wild Talents, which is the one-roll engine version of superheroes. And it's the basic game. I picked up the Pocket Edition or the Essential Edition, and this is the only $10, and it's all you need to run a superhero game. If you want to use it ORE, that there you go.
Okay.
This is also the same system that Godlike is used, which Godlike is, of course, World War II superpowered characters in, but they're not wearing costumes. It's more gritty and more realistic.
Ooh, gritty.
But with, punching tanks and stuff like that. Let's see here. Some of the other things I got Don't Rest Your Head and Don't Lose Your Mind, another indie horror game. Ben Bao wrote Don't Lose Your Mind, and of course he is the guy who wrote Monsters and Other Childish Things, and it seems like every other game this day, he's a very prolific guy. Got to meet him briefly. We'll be setting up a Skype interview with him later in the future. We didn't have time to interview him at Gen Con. I actually brought all the mics up to Gen Con. Only got one interview using the good mics. But whatever. What
can you do?
Yeah, exactly. It's a very busy time. That's another thing about Gen Con. We realized time management is an important skill in Gen Con. You have to learn, you're there to do stuff you can't do any other time of the year. I mean, there's tens of thousands of people there. All
into the shit you're into.
Exactly. This is the only place in the world, one of the few places in the world, at that time where you could approach any random person and be like, "Ay, Cthulhu Fatag," and then be like,
"Oh!"
Yeah, exactly. They'll know what you're talking about. So you need to make the most of that. Look for their games going on literally 24/7. They just leave rooms open in the Hyatt and other parts of the convention center.
Open gaming at all times.
Yeah, you just walk in like, I want to game. And be like, we have board games, we have card games, we have role-playing games. What flavor do you like, sir?
What's your pleasure, sir?
Exactly. So be sure to take advantage of that. Now, in terms of our gaming, we didn't really... I ran 2 games of Monsters, official events. Woohoo.
Ooh, yeah.
And we also did a Call of Cthulhu playtest scenario for Pagan Press.
Same thing like we did last year.
Yeah. This time we got to record it, and it was a very cool World War I scenario.
Yes, it is. Very, very cool people to roleplay with, too.
Yeah, including, obviously, Scott Glancy ran it. Greg Stolze, the game designer, was one of the players. Very cool. And some of the other Arc Dream people, whose names escape me at the moment, but I will get them. And let's see here, what else? Just flipping through it, Fear Itself. Speaking of this, I got to meet and talk to Dave Arneson, the co-creator of D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, one of the grandfathers of the gaming hobby. And he's a cool guy. He's obviously getting on in years, but he got a Lifetime Achievement Awards at the Ennies. And I found his first supplement, Blackmore. This is the very first Dungeons and Dragons campaign ever created, and it's still active. Like, they're still playing it. He's still running it. It's like 37 years or something, and hundreds, if not thousands, of PCs have died in this campaign. I mean, that's awesome, and he got to autograph it for me. So I was very cool, very happy to pick that up, and I will be reading it because it's
it's history.
Exactly. Let's see here. What else?
Oh shit, Ross! You're kind of emasculating me here with all the shit you did.
Well, I was just going nuts because.
Yeah, I know. You were pretty much surviving on ambition.
Yeah.
And hatred.
No, not hatred. Just sheer gaming giddiness. Yeah, very little sleep. Too busy to eat. Maybe ate once a day. So yeah, it was very.
Well, that probably worked for you. I ate heavy one time and threw up.
Yeah, that's true. You gotta watch your health. You gotta make sure you're very hydrated. A lot of times, always bring bottled water with you. Always have that.
And sugar.
Yeah, sugar.
Lots of sugar.
Sugar.
And I'm diabetic, but I had to have sugar to survive.
Of course, and as we mentioned, we got a lot of interviews with people in the exhibit
I got my first interview.
Yes, Tom's very first interview. So
she the lady who was the co-creator of Freaky Creatures. Once again, her name escapes me, but it's on the interview itself.
Yeah, we'll be posted.
She can only spare about 5 minutes, but I interviewed her for 5 minutes, and it comes back to me.
Cool. Good to hear.
I believe Aaron actually got it on tape. If you on video.
Yeah, we'll see if we can hook that up, put it on YouTube so you can see Tom, ask his questions and stuff. So yeah.
And I play tested the beta version of their game too.
Yeah, tell us about Freaky Creatures. I didn't really pay attention to it.
Well, it's along the lines of Pokemon, monsters that engage in ritualistic cockfights. But this time it's not for the enjoyment of any trainers. Just we're going to fight and have fun with it.
Okay.
And you can design your own. And the lady said that they actually checked with a math professor that there were about 3.5 billion different combinations of creature you could put together.
Nice. So
I got to play test it, and I once again didn't get my butt kicked, but I was defeated. But it looks fun. It's it's an online game that you can play over your PC or transfer to your to like a cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
Play it that way, and you do have to pay for it, but it's only $5 a month. I believe $5 a month.
Okay.
To play it, and it looks like something if you're just sitting at the office bored, you can do and not bother anyone.
Okay. Cool.
So I think I will be getting that when it comes out in October. I will be reviewing it too.
Great. Well, October is obviously going to be a big horror theme month since it's
Halloween.
Yeah, and it's not like I'm a huge obsessive horror fan.
You said that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know.
Let's see what else. Talk to Midnight Syndicate. They're the ones who created the official Dungeons and Dragons soundtrack, and they've created several soundtracks for gaming. Like background music to play while you're gaming, both for fantasy and horror. And they seem very cool guys. They have a new movie coming out, and I'll put a link up to that. I got some of their CDs. We'll be listening to this, The Dead Matter. Yeah, Dead Matter. That's the movie that's coming out. Cemetery Gates. So anyways...
speaking of movies, I picked up a DVD there.
Yeah, what'd you pick up?
I picked up a Japanese movie called Yamato.
Yeah?
About the battleship in World War II.
Okay.
And it's about as gory as the newest Rambo movie.
Okay.
When it's showing Hellcats strafing the battleship and entire crews being cut in half by the 50 caliber bullets from the planes.
Nice.
It's it's kind of like watching Das Boot. They're supposed to be the enemy, but you can't help but go, fuck man, I couldn't do what they did.
True. And also one other movie I actually picked up at DVD too, and this was Gamers 2, Darkness Rising.
Ah, yes.
Yes, now the Gamers, there have been about 4 or 5 gaming movies, all very low budget, and...
Some of them no budget.
Yeah. The only one that I found, and I've seen several of them, the only one I found funny or interesting was the first Gamers. And it's only 45 minutes long, no budget movie, but it actually sort of captured the goofiness that... is gaming, is fantasy gaming, and I found it, it was one I showed to everyone I could. All my gaming friends, they all dug it, and they all started quoting it.
Yeah, this was the one where it's their characters were just kind of standing around the lake, one skips a stone, and finally their voice said, "Aren't you forgetting something? What? Your character's crippling fear of water?"
I was thinking of the exact same.
It's like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then one character just starts screaming.
Ah, yeah, that was the exact same scene I was thinking of. But there were quite a few, rolling the critical hit on the arrow, getting the
barbarian failed his strength check, and then the elf succeeds on his to rip the grate off the wall.
Yes, so backstabbing the barbarian with a ballista.
The player that's not there at the time, so his character's just looking off into space.
Exactly. So yeah, it's.
He's busy having sex with a girl.
Yeah, exactly. So the first Gamers is good. So we'll see if the second one, which is longer and has a budget of something, lives up to the hype. It's been a while since they've finished it. So they finally released it. It's sort of premiering at Gencon. So we'll see how that works out. We'll have a review of that sooner or later. I forgot to ask them for a free review copy, but whatever, they deserve the $20 or whatever it was.
Ross supports the arts.
Yes, exactly.
When it suits him.
Yeah, when it suits me. Or when I forget to do that. So I'm still getting the handle on this podcast and new media business. So that was the exhibition hall. That was the main event of it. Of course, there were quite a few other things going on in Gencon. Way too many. We couldn't even begin to cover them all. There was a cosplay contest. I think Aaron got some photos of it or something.
Actually, he couldn't. It was too dark, and there was no flash photography allowed.
Well, I did go to the first half of the Ennies Award, where they...
Oh, yeah, because Monsters and Other Childish Things was nominated, right?
Didn't win. Changeling the Lost, and sort of dominated the awards.
Robbed, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, White Wolf is one of the 800-pound gorillas of the gaming industry, so...
They'll freaking rip your soul out.
So you can kind of expect them. And then the votes were basically... It was an internet popularity contest anyways.
Yeah.
So it was good.
Can't fuck with the internet.
It was an honor for it to be nominated anyways. Let's see. Although Aces and Eight won, which was...
I think don't a lot of Hollywood people say it's an honor to be nominated.
Yeah.
As in their minds, they're screaming.
True. That is a valid point. Also, we did... so one of the things we did was we did some interviews with some video game people. I talked to someone from Pirates of the Burning Sea, pirate-themed MMO it's been out for a little bit, but it looks pretty good. Warhammer Online, though, that's sort of like the new sexy MMO.
Yeah.
That looks just like World of Warcraft. I mean, I watched the gameplay footage, and it's, you're a guy walking around. Oh, there's an enemy. I'll do my attack animation on him. Oh, some numbers of his lowered. Oh, so he hit me. Some of my numbers went lower. Oh, we repeat. We repeated. Oh, I get to use my special ability. Okay, I do that.
I believe the technical term is grind.
Yeah, it's...
another grind.
Seriously,
grindtastic grind fest.
Yeah, exactly. So unless you're a hamster and you want to pay for the privilege of running on that wheel, I would stay away.
Yeah, I saw a couple of video game things that look interesting to me.
Yeah,
like the newest expansion to Neverwinter Nights, which I think I said I'm a huge fan of that game.
Yeah.
I've seen it. Like, once again, my mind's recovering. Synapses aren't firing, so I forget what it's called right now.
Oh, it's on the internet.
Yeah, it's on the internet. Look it up.
Yeah.
Go to the Googles. Look it up.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see here.
Of course, they were really pimping Fable 2.
Yeah, I saw some of that too, and it looks pretty good. I mean, Fable 1 was kind of a disappointment. It was too short for my taste, so it's kind of neat, but I'm not...
Is it only coming out for the 360?
Probably. I don't know.
Well, I did at first.
Yeah. Anyways,
Better come out for the PC.
Some of the other things, they had a bunch of events at Gen Con. We didn't get to go to all of them, like the Tower of Gygax or any of those other things. They
were doing a live HeroClix thing.
Yeah, that's true.
With actual, people on the giant HeroClix
in costume.
In costume.
Miss Marvel versus Spider-Man versus Daredevil.
Mr. Fantastic was there too.
Yeah, so that was entertaining.
I didn't do it, and I kept watching people rolling giant dice. Yeah. And
so outside of the chaos of the exhibit, well, actually, there's one last thing about the exhibit hall. We also picked up a lot of old games for cheap. There are some companies stores that come up.
Well, Steve Jackson Games, they were selling 3...
No, that wasn't Steve Jackson Games. They were selling GURPS, but it wasn't...
Well, fine.
Yeah. But, anyways.
Can I continue, Ross? Is it all right for me to do that now?
All right. Yeah, go on.
I have your permission.
Yes.
Good.
All right.
Yeah, they were selling old GURPS books for like $3, 3 for $10.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that kind of have a thing they always do, where if you pay an exact change, they scream out exact change and cheer.
Yeah, and I visited that. And then there was Titan Games that were selling like buy one get 3 free, and later on it was just $5 for anything in their booth, which is like a lot.
That's another good thing. Wait till Sunday. Everyone's trying to get rid of all their extra crap.
Yeah, exactly. So if you can hang out there and you're not trying to get one of those limited edition things that are exclusive to the con.
Of course, there's also the art room, and I once again am stuck with the problem. So much looks awesome, but they're asking like $200 for it.
Yeah, that is a problem.
I saw some artwork that may I be vulgar here?
Okay.
I was creaming my jeans, looking at some of this stuff, but then I looked, then I stopped like $500. Okay.
Yeah.
I need to be wealthier when I go.
Yeah.
I need to have disposable income. Lots of disposable income.
True.
Oh, and carry cash.
Yeah. Carry cash. Yeah, that's just a general traveling tip. You always carry cash on you when you go on a trip, so you can pay free cabs and things like that. So
even though you don't suspect that to happen.
Yeah. So outside of the main chaos of the exhibit hall,
that's like the first thing we do each day. We go to the con. Then we drift away into other things.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things that I did get some interviews outside of the exhibit hall, some shorter ones with like Robin Laws and Greg Stolz about some of their games. I also got a nice hour-long interview with Johnny Nexus of CriticalMiss.com. He has a new novel, Game Night, which I've read. Very funny. If you're a gamer and you enjoy our type of humor, if you enjoy AB3 rants, I believe you will enjoy Game Night. It's only like $10. It's
Ross believes.
No, seriously, I'll let you borrow it, Tom. It's a good read.
Well, all right.
It's only like 200 pages.
You're gonna quiz me on it too.
Probably. The basic premise is 6 gods that are role playing, and they have mortals in the mortal realm, and they're trying to save the world. But they're the gods controlling it, not people.
Right.
So it's pretty fun because there's a dark paladin, Munchkin's sociopathic god of war, who has a dark paladin, mortal. And, then there's the goof off, the guy who's not paying attention, and so on and so forth. So it's a fun read. And the interview, I think, with him was very good. We actually used the good mics for it, and yeah. Dude.
Yeah, it was during that interview that I got into the trading with another guy that had purchased the Monster Apocalypse stuff.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he only got, the only thing, he got doubles of the alien invaders and the Martians, and he wanted to trade me.
Oh, yeah?
And I had doubles of the Cthulhu thing, so we traded that, and much fun was had between us.
Cool. That's good to hear, Tom.
And Aaron was really wanting to, he had bought the Sluggy Freelance card game, and he was, come on, you want to play this, Tom? Like, yeah, I have to open more boxes of Monster Apocalypse now, but as soon as I'm done with that.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I know he's excited, and I probably will end up playing it, but man, he was. You ever have the annoying little brother that keeps wanting you to do something you don't want to do?
No,
you were the annoying little brother.
I didn't want Strader to do what I was doing.
Oh yeah, you were untypical.
We were hyper competitive about things, and Strader was the prima donna, and I was the one who was
Didn't care.
Yeah, I was totally oblivious to those things. So
yeah, that's what struck me when I first met you. He doesn't care.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks.
Hey, that's why I'm still hanging out with you.
Monsters. I ran 2 games of Monsters. These were official events, the ones I had linked to in our Gencon preview. First game I had 5 players. Second game was Sunday morning, so I got 3 players, which was pretty good for a Sunday at 9 a.m.
Yeah, I would have joined you, but we had to stay in the room and pack everything.
Well, yeah. Well, anyways, it didn't matter because actually that game with 3 players was the least number of players I've ever run with Monsters. With Monsters, I've almost always had a full house of 4 or more players.
Right.
And it's actually a very different experience to run it with a smaller group. And it was actually just as fun, even more fun in some ways, because it was more personal and it was more players had more face time, So
I think I've only ever played 1 game of that. I mean, a series of 1 campaign with you.
Yeah. I mean, I've only run maybe. Well, yeah, I haven't. I've run a decent number of games, but with a lot of different players.
Yeah, I remember the game I played with you is one of the few times. The first times I tried my hand at a Psycho.
Oh yeah. Anyways, for the con games, I ran The Adventure in a Curriculum of Conspiracy. It's called A Lesson Learned. The original title was called The Lesson is Learned, but the Damage is Irreversible, which is a reference to a webcomic that I like, and also I think a Radiohead song. But it was shortened, which, that's fine. The basic premise is sort of the introducing players to a curriculum of conspiracy. And one of the things I've learned, another thing I've learned in Gen Con is how valuable playtesting is, because I playtested the scenario twice before I published it. But these 2 times I ran at a con, I picked up a lot more. So I think whenever I have another adventure that I really want to polish, I'll run it 4 or 5 times with different groups instead of just once or twice. Because each time when I ran at the con, instead of giving a player a kid and a monster, I gave them just a kid or a monster. And that sort of cut down on the number of monsters and supernatural shenanigans. Because when you have 4 or 5 monsters, it gets crazy.
Yeah.
Like, they just destroy any single monster that they fight, any opponent that you can throw at them. 4 or 5 monsters will just, I'll hit them with this, I'll hit them with this, I'll paralyze them, we win. Repeat. So I actually kind of made these monsters in Curriculum of Conspiracy, or in the Lesson Learned, the adventure. Fairly tough monsters. Like, they all have multiple levels of toughness and everything else. And they're pretty much all brick shithouses that are hard to kill, because that's what I sort of did for those first 2 games. But for the con games, I was like, I kind of just silently took off several levels of toughness, because I realized they don't need to be winning on this guy for 10 rounds. Another thing I learned is, if you've run the scenario, if you're going to run the scenario, what you need to do is make it clear that Jim is attacked in the first scene with the shadow mob, all the greasers who show up. And then have Heather attack. Make sure it's clear that it's Heather being attacked, that in the cafeteria. And you need to give them all the clues. One, that Jim broke up with Heather because Jim flirted with another girl. Then you need to introduce Mary as that other girl. And then you need to introduce the fact that someone is trying to impress Mary. So this guy's going after Mary's enemies, who are Jim and Heather. So that clears my...
Yeah.
Yes. So, yeah. If you just so you guys know, if any of you have any questions about our Curriculum of Conspiracy, feel free to ask. We'll talk about it on the show. I'll be happy to, or on our forums.
We do have forums, in case anyone didn't know that.
Yeah. Feel free to do that. So, Monsters was a blast.
Way to pimp the podcast.
And actually, all the con players were really good players. I was really impressed.
Most of them are.
Yeah, because these are the hardcore players, the ones who are willing to spend a lot of money to come here and play. So,
and it's one of those. I like it because just when you think, am I getting too old for this shit?
Yeah.
You go there. No. Never.
Yeah. Dave Arneson, the guy's like in his 70s or something, and he's I still run Blackmore. Oh sure, yeah. So
it makes you feel good about yourself.
Yeah. It's a lifestyle. Anyways, we also did the podcasting panel discussion. I did one of them, setting up the studio. Tom was there though, so this was basically how to set up the studio, how to do this, and it is technical stuff. And so we talked about mics and software and stuff like that. Wasn't a large audience, like 6 or 7 people.
There were 7 people.
Yeah. But they all
included.
wanted to be a podcaster, so there were 4 of us, and we gave a lot of advice.
It's primarily Q&A.
Yeah. So it's a good. I found it fun. I found a lot of basically events in Gencon are either no one shows up at all, a few people show up, or the room is packed to standing room only. That just seems to how it is. There's no middle room, so I found that kind of interesting. I went to a bunch of get-togethers and parties and things like that. Podcasters, Meg from Gameologist, yo, what's up? And a lot of the other people, it was very cool meeting them, and we'll be talking to them in the future and stuff like that. And let's see what else. BeerCon was fun. This was this Goodman Games party at a tavern nearby, and I got to meet a lot of the other D&D type people. We traded war stories from gaming, stuff like that. I talked about my first player ever, first character ever, first gaming experience ever, dying in a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game.
Oh, you're Mutant Raccoon.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that both our first games were TMNT and Other Strangeness.
Yeah. And I died in my first game ever, and people were like, why did you stay with gaming? I couldn't really answer that. So, yeah, good times.
Good times by all.
What else? So I want to talk a little more about the Call of Cthulhu scenario, since that's
kind of a highlight.
Yeah. Basically, Adam Scott Glancy of Pagan Press was playtesting a scenario called Dig to Victory. And it's World War I, British tunnelers digging under the trenches, these tunnels to get under the German lines. And this is part of
historically, it is that it's leading up to when the British detonated, I think, just under a kiloton worth of explosives under the German lines.
It was probably even more than that, but
no, I think the guy said it was just under a kiloton.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it was £1 million or something like that. So it was a lot of pounds. It was a lot of bomb.
It was a lot of boom.
Boom. So and it was very meticulously researched.
Yes.
Like he had this book, Ned Flanders' War, which I want to buy now, and it had all these diagrams showing basically the British were like they were building dungeons. I mean, they're multi-level dungeons. I mean, these things were fucking massive, levels upon levels with offices and cafeterias and taverns and all this shit. I mean, it was crazy. So
and I think what I really like is everyone there seemed to be history buffs.
Yeah. You'll notice in the game that
including myself included.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm familiar with all the history, but I'm not. Yeah, it was fun just letting everybody. Oh yeah, let's talk about this for a few minutes. You'll note we actually. Oh, the best part is we actually recorded the whole game.
And all 6 hours of it.
Yeah. Well, the recording's like 5.5 hours because there's like half an hour that I didn't record because it was just set up and not really relevant, and just sort of some of the rambling.
There was less setup than last year.
Yeah, that's true.
Which worked well because we got into the game quicker.
Yeah, so the game went in a lot of tangents and a few breaks, but it was a ridiculously fun game. Glad we played, even though it lasted till 3 a.m. But
the thing is, unlike last, I wasn't tired.
Yeah.
When it was done, I was still kind of stoked about it.
Yeah. So we'll be posting that sometime soon.
I made successful jokes several times, which is good for me.
Yes, good for you.
One that I might have even done last year, but I can't be for sure.
Yeah.
Because we didn't record it last year.
Yeah. So yeah, that was basically Gencon for us. After the two, we have a bunch of 8-10 interviews plus short interviews plus the Johnny Nuxus interview plus the actual play plus a bunch of photos that Aaron took. Aaron also went to the Video Games Live concert, which
yes he did.
Symphony Orchestra doing video game music, and
I got to go to a Hard Rock Cafe for the first time.
Okay,
good for me.
Yeah, it's good for you.
I'm like probably the only person in America that hasn't been to one.
Yeah. So lastly, we'll just end this little episode on some anecdotes, some of the things. BeerCon, it was fun. Everyone had this story. What was your first game? Most of them were D&D. Oh, the blue box. Oh, the red box. Blah, 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 blah. One of these guys, Brendan, I forget his last name, but he's the guy who created X-Crawl, the competitive game show Dungeon Crawl. You've seen that, right? Mm-hmm. He talked about how he would game through CB radio as a kid. Like this was like in the late 70s or something. And so he and all his friends had CB radios, but they could, so when they couldn't, meet each other, when they couldn't physically be there, this is in New York State, by the way, they would get on the CB radio and they had this whole system figured out where they would say, okay, we're going to be on channel blah, blah, blah. And then they would just go, you are in a 10 by 10 room. There is an orc there. Over. And they...
over and out.
I rolled to attack. I rolled a 8. That misses. The orc hits you for 5 damage. Oh, no! Over. And
over.
That... I just love that. And, of course, one guy always cheated on his rolls because apparently they use the honor system for rolling.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, well, there's only one guy who was that he's just like, Brendan was like, oh, that bastard always rolling a 6 for initiative or something like that. And I just love that idea because the thing is they had to keep switching channels in order to avoid all the angry truckers and bikers who are also using the CB radio. I can just imagine, like, what the hell are you kids talking about? Where's Smokey? It'd be like, the bear is attacking. I don't see no bear. Because bear is thing for cow.
What's your initiative?
Yeah. What the hell does that mean? Is that a way station? I don't know. I'm looking for speed traps. Anyways, yeah.
Man, this was the time before cell phones.
Yeah, exactly. They kind of, yeah.
Ancient.
So that was really cool getting to hear about all these old war stories. Also, in Monsters, the players were all great, in both games. So if you're listening, good job. in the first game, we were using the characters in Monsters and other childish things. One of them is Madison. The girl's name is Madison. The monster's name is Yog So Soft. Demonic teddy bear, basically. And anyways, Madison was described as being like this overachiever. Her parents really push her and everything. Like in the first game, Madison was always saying, "I'm running for class president," blah, 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 blah. So she kept making charm rolls in order to get people to vote for her for class president. And that was the player just came up with that all up on her own, and she just had a ball with it, and it was pretty funny. In the second game, one of the players was Mr. Crocker. Mr. Crocker is this basically the Egyptian god Sebek. Mm-hmm. Only now he likes eating, he talks with a southern accent, and bounces around on two legs. And so the player was like talking in a lazy southern drawl, y'all. Mm. And at one point in the scenario, a lesson learned, there was a giant trash monster. You know, the cafeteria food, basically all the thrown away cafeteria food becomes alive. Mm-hmm. Turns in this, you remember that.
Yeah.
And Mr. Crocker has an ability called Swallow Anything and then spit it up back later. And so he used that and he ate it all up. And then later on in the scenario, he basically puked a torrent at another monster in order to incapacitate it. And I thought that was very interesting. The player just was literally laughing out loud, just that the thought of a flood of cafeteria food puke just overwhelming this guy. So yeah, that was fun. So Tom, you got any anecdotes for?
No, I think I covered most of mine already.
Oh yeah.
Though the one thing I do like is when actually we were discussing your Monsters game.
Yeah.
And we came up with an idea for another monster. Remember that?
No, enlighten us.
Yeah, this was I don't know. This was Sunday. We were walking back to the hotel to leave for the final time.
Yeah.
And we were discussing all the stuff we had got, and you said you could imagine just a living mound of bumper stickers and slogans.
Oh yeah,
just dare, just say no to drugs.
Slogan, the type of crap that adults always push on kids. Stay in school, don't copy that floppy, dare to resist drugs. And I could just imagine all of these little T-shirts and bumper stickers and slogans and things just forming this alive patchwork thing.
And we were into it all the way to the hotel, and we actually came up with the name. I think was Swag.
Yeah, Swag. Yeah. I think that was you. You called them.
Yeah,
that.
I did.
But you had a couple good one-liners in the actual play, Dig to Victory, I think. So, what was that one line that you think you said last year? But
it was it's in the recording. I forget the exact situation which was said, but it was involving a smell, horrible smells. I think, and I said tastes smells like pizza and fascism, and the guy that was running it, Scott, yeah, just stuff like pizza and fascism, and we had to stop for about a minute, just laughing. And another thing, I think another gem I had that I'm personally proud of is he was mentioning Field Marshal Haig, who was the British field commander, and I said, Sid Haig, who he was, and I was grateful he actually knew who Sid Haig was.
Yeah.
Captain Spaulding from for those that don't know.
House of a Thousand Corpses, the Rob Zombie movie.
Yeah,
actor.
And that once again prompted a 30-second pause where he was he considered that, laughed out loud. It made me feel good. I
remember I overheard Greg Stolz actually repeating your pizza and fascism line the next day at the Arc Dream booth. So so he remembered.
I'm awesome.
Yeah. Also, I just checked our forums, and one of our listeners someone posted on our forums because he had listened to our interview with Adrian Pomier about the Dungeon Crawl Classic tournament. And so he decided to sign up for it. And he has some interesting stories about how he barely survived. He survived the first round and got killed, had a total party kill in the first fight of the second round of the module.
Nice.
Apparently it's a very brutal, but he had a blast doing it. So next year, I think I will have to try the DCC. If I'm not writing for it, I think I'll be playing it.
Right.
But it sounds like a very challenging little module, and so whenever it comes out, we'll have to give that a shot. But
we'll we'll dominate it.
Yeah, well, no. Given our track record, we will die.
We will dominate it to the point we all die.
No, yeah, we will die arguing with each other in the first round
and laugh and making stupid jokes.
Yeah, that's it. That's that's what we're going to be doing, making witty rejoinders to the monsters as they stab us in our bowels.
But it's a death that's worthy, because if our enemies are like, damn, they were funny as they're stabbing us.
Yeah, exactly. They'll remember us as they're on the campfire. Oh, remember those guys we stabbed to death? They were funny.
Yeah,
good time.
But we stabbed them to death.
Yeah. So anyways, that was pretty much our Gen Con 2008 experience. Of course, the trip back was pretty long and...
Yeah, I always noticed it was the same last year. The trip down there, we're going back and forth all the time.
Yeah.
Back, we're all too tired to give a shit.
Basically.
It's almost silence all the way there.
Yeah. I read some of the stuff I got.
Yeah, you were reading almost the entire way from Indianapolis to St. Louis.
Yeah. I finished a zombie novel. And... Day by day.
And I discovered that Aaron sleeps. He slept about 80% of the trip back.
Yeah, he's a lightweight.
And he snores.
Yeah, he does snore. That first night we shared a hotel room. I wish I'd turned the fan on to generate some white noise to drown that out.
Oops. It's an experience.
Yeah. So anyways, lessons learned.
And we're already making plans for next year.
Yeah. Be there the entire time. Get a hotel room right at the convention.
Yeah, because you can bet your ass we're going.
Get more interviews. Hopefully I'll have some more books in print by then.
And most importantly, have disposable income you can take there.
Yeah, and bottled water. So, in the random encounter that is your life, Gen Con is the 00. The natural 20, I guess.
And, pizza and fascism.
Pizza and fascism.